I just got off that bus and I'm in Liberty Lake, Washington, in the middle of office parkland. Today I'm doing something kind of dumb. Haven't done anything dumb for a while. I thought I was due. And I will talk about that when I get closer to where I'm going. So the bus here from Spokane took a little bit more than 30 minutes, and a lot of that was along the freeway. So we did come pretty far. And as you can believe from looking at this road, this is not the most transit friendly or accessible place, although nice sidewalk, etc. But I did not come here just to walk along a road in corporate office parkland, even though I like to do things like that. We will see in a minute why I came here. As I've said many times before, distances on a map aren't always what they are in the real world. So I looked at this area on the map, especially, you know, it has transit coverage and stuff. We're not too far from something that you could consider a town. Looked a lot more compact than it was. And I have reached my goal, which is Liberty Lake Trails, connecting our community. And does it say the name of the trail? It does not. And at some point it might, but I will just announce this is the State Line Trail. So this is a trail that goes to Idaho. See those mountains? Those are in Idaho. So yeah, we're about, I think, 20 miles east of Spokane, something like that. And Spokane, the city, is not actually directly on the border, but the county is. And so this trail, after a couple miles, will go over to Idaho. And I'm only going pretty much to say that I'm going. I'm not going to go very far once I reach Idaho. But I do want to have the opportunity to cross the state line. And I also think this trail might be somewhat lacking in scenery because we're going along the freeway, but that is what it is. Also, it is 12:01 p.m., 1 minute after noon. I started kind of early today because this might be a long walk. And it is getting a little bit warm today. It's been cool in previous days and it's warming up. Hopefully not too much. I brought fluids, but hopefully I will not get exhausted. And perhaps at a park along the way there will be water. So I've been walking for a couple of minutes, and according to my map and according to what I can see, this is what I will have for a while. And yeah, you have noise from the freeway, so not the most relaxing, beautiful nature walk, but I'm getting my miles in, so this is okay, and I'll just see where this goes. Well, that didn't take too much time. State line, half a mile. In this case, I'm not sure that State Line isn't the name of a settlement or road near the state line. State line itself might be a little bit further, but really not that long of a walk. There we have an osprey nest. There we have a cannabis store. Cannabis is fully legal in Washington, totally prohibited in Idaho. And we are a mile away from the border. And so people come over here from Idaho to buy cannabis legally. Now in the United States, even between two states where it is legal, you can't you can't bring cannabis across the border. So you can't legally bring cannabis even for personal use between Oregon and Washington. And bringing it to a state where it's illegal, the police, at times I've heard, will stop and search what they think are suspicious looking cars, because Idaho is a very different political culture than Washington. Maybe you see on the other side of that freeway a bicyclist, and you can also see a river. So there is actually a trail that goes on the north side of the freeway. Why didn't I take that trail? Because this one was easier to get to. However, on the way back, I am planning to take that. We will see if that's what happens. Also, so far, I'm the only person I've seen on this trail. So, other than the road noise, nice quiet trail. So there, we have a countertop store. And that's a pretty substantial building for being in the middle of this. And so my guess there is, even though it's obviously not criminally illegal to have a quartz countertop in Idaho, that the licensing fees for the business or the taxes or something like that are lower here in Washington, so that they're going to serve the Idaho market, but they're going to have store in Washington as close to the border as they can get it. And I don't know if that's totally the case here, but I've seen stuff like that before along state borders. So we're coming up on exit 299. In the United States, interstate freeways are west to east. So this is 299 road miles, or about 500 kilometers from where I-90 starts in Puget Sound. I also don't know that when I get home and try to play these clips, if it's going to be any audio above the roar of the freeway. So I've been walking for a while now. This is the point where I get a little bit nervous because I want to look at my GPS on my phone, see how far I've gotten, and see if actually I've only walked like a third of a mile or something in the past 30 minutes. I hope not. Well, that fear was overblown because 3 minutes later I'm at the entrance and exit to the freeway, and I think that once I cross over here we're pretty close to Idaho. Maybe I'll look at my map and find out, or maybe I'll just keep walking. So this is the Liberty Lake Trails sign. Trail continues past here, so maybe past here it's under different auspices. I don't actually know where the city limits of Liberty Lake are. I think it's one of those diffuse cities. But in any case, we are continuing on the trail, but the trail has a different name. Hoo-hoo, I've got such a long way to go to make it to the border of Idaho. So I walk like the wind, do, 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 do. Right here, this is where we connect to the trail that goes along the north side of the freeway, which I believe is the Centennial Trail. And so it connects here. This might also be called the Centennial Trail past this point. There's a network of trails and they're all connected. And somewhere between here and the Spokane River, we cross the border into Idaho. And I'll have to look at my GPS because I want to know exactly where that is. So right now, this is indeed the Centennial Trail, which we saw in downtown Spokane, and which does continue all the way to Coeur d'Alene in one form or another. Welcome to Washington. You can also see right here the trail maintenance changes, so I'm assuming this is the Washington-Idaho border. Now my GPS is a little bit different, by a couple dozen feet, but GPS can be inaccurate. But sometimes they put the signs different than where the border is, but somewhere along here is the Washington-Idaho border. And this will be the first time I've crossed this border on foot. This border, the Washington-Idaho state line. So there or there, somewhere along here, is the border. So right here, we have a bridge. Pretty long and substantial bridge, too. And this is, I assume, converted rails to trails, and that's why you have such a heavy bridge. And this bridge goes over the Spokane River, which we can see right there. And it's kind of curious because we have this big river here, and it might seem intuitive, well, why isn't this the border instead of just a north-south line? Well, in this case, this river runs mostly from east to west, and just through here, it has a little turn where it's going from south to north. And it's flowing pretty heavy right now. It's a beautiful, wide river, and doesn't look like there's access on this side. There is access along the way, but I don't think we're going to see any today. I guess I'll find out. I also just checked the time, and it is only 1 p.m. So it only took me an hour to walk here, which I think makes sense. I think it's about 3 miles or so from the from where I got off the bus in Liberty Lake. So not at all an arduous hike, a pretty pleasant little stroll. I think this right here is State Line Park, and there is like a more substantial turn off, like an automobile rest stop in a couple miles, but I think this is just State Line Park right here, and it has restrooms and what might be water, so that's all I need, and then I'll just turn right around. So the bad news is the water doesn't seem to be working. The good news is, and this map is reversed, south is at the top of the map. Looks like we're pretty close to another park. Corbin Park seems to be continuous with this park. So I'm going to walk just a little bit further that way to see if I can get some water. Another map, and then it seems that that is inaccurate, so I'm not going to go up that way. I'm going to turn around, and there's probably something park-like back on the Washington state of the line. This is Idaho. Maybe not the most substantial coverage of Idaho. The only other video I think that has Idaho in it is the Missoula to Spokane bus video. Otherwise, not a lot of coverage in my videos. Now, one thing is, as somebody who has lived in Oregon, Washington, and lived in Montana, I have been through Idaho many, many times, usually across here on the Panhandle, but it's almost always just been passing through. On a couple chances, I have been to camp in Idaho, you know, and stayed there for a while. But yeah, I've been here dozens of times in my life, scores of times in my life, but it basically has added all up to maybe 2 weeks total in my 45 years. So this is Idaho, but there is a lot more to Idaho, but we're not going to see it today. But if I did continue eastward, in a mile or two, you get to Post Falls and then you get to Coeur d'Alene, both of which are interesting places. And there is bus service there, but I would have to walk 7 miles and then 7 miles back to get between the gap in bus service. So that might be feasible, but it's not on my immediate list of plans, which is why today I'm just heading back across the river, back to Washington State. So this is the trail that continues along the north side of the freeway, and I think it's a little bit further from the freeway than the Liberty Lake Trail. And so it's going to be a little bit quieter, and also I think has a better view of the Spokane River. And it is a little bit longer, but it's just a little bit past 1 p.m. There's no reason to hurry back. So yeah, just on a leisurely stroll. As long as I stay hydrated, I'm happy. Somewhere here in the next 100 feet between here and the river, this trail leaves Washington, goes into Idaho for a couple hundred feet, because the bridge is actually in Idaho, goes under the bridge and then circles around. So I've been to Idaho, back to Washington. Now we'll be going back to Idaho and back to Washington, all in a very short amount of time. Interestingly, so one of the reasons I did this is because in my life I've crossed before now these following state or subnational unit borders between Oregon and Washington many times. This is all on foot, of course. Between Oregon and California a couple times on bicycle and a little bit on foot. I used to run between Vermont and New York every night, and of course there's footage on here of between Alajuela, Heredia, San Jose, and Cartago, and then also in Chile between Región Metropolitano and Región Valparaiso. So that is my history of crossing borders on foot, and it is kind of a hallmark holiday. But I was like, well, let's add one more to that list. Okay, well this just like the song says, this could be heaven or this could be hell. This could be Washington or this could be Idaho. This I-90 bridge is very modern and not obviously interesting or stylistically flourished. But I do like those pillars that are kind of at an angle. That's an interesting design choice. Okay, so just walking this way. and I'll be back in Washington in a second. So here we do indeed have river access, and I can walk down to the river, and I hope that there will be other places to do that. For right now, I kind of want to get some distance, get some momentum before I stop and rest, but hopefully I will have opportunities to do and see that later. Also, I want to get some water. Now, I have some water, but I also kind of want to get some water. Another osprey nest. So yeah, here we are next to the river and further away from the freeway, and we have more space. Not a lot of space, but enough space that I do feel is a little bit more natural, and I've seen and heard more birds hopping around, so that's nice. So this is a rest area. It's part of a network of parks, but it's just a rest area for people coming off the freeway, and the water and the bathrooms aren't open, so I guess I'll have to look further to see that. And I do have more water, and I don't terribly have to go to the bathroom, but that was a little bit of disappointment. I wanted to recharge. Just like I said, I was walking on the other side of the freeway. It's going to continue like this for a while, and yeah, it is a little bit quieter here. And I don't have a view of the river right now, but I think it will come about. So yeah, just going to continue walking along this way, and it's warm but not hot, and we do have some shade and a breeze, so good walking conditions. So trail is going to get really close to the freeway here and follow next to the freeway for a while. So before I do that, I think this is still part of a public park. I'm going to go down and see the river, and the river is pretty narrow here, and that's because this isn't really the river. This is a channel. You can see the main part of the river over in that direction somewhere. This is just an island right here. That's the main channel of the river. It's narrow enough that on another day I could probably walk across, but not today. So all of this natural beauty right there, and all of this right here. I remember my misty watercolored memories of when I walked by that building all those 90 minutes ago. Anyway, it is what it is, so I'm just going to continue to walk this way until I get back to where I can take a bus back home. I have to zoom all the way in, but I can see an osprey up in that nest. Might get some better views of the bird when I'm closer. Okay, well he or she finally landed on the tree. Maybe I'm also bothering birds, so I should probably keep walking. But I don't think that's the case. I think the bird's just out patrolling and having fun. So anyway, osprey. That's my great wildlife encounter of the day. Common bird, but a bird I always love to see. So I'm continuing to walk this way. 2 miles. Only 2 miles. Feels to me that it's been a little bit further than that, but yeah, I'll accept that. 2 miles. I've been walking along this path for a while. If I could magically cross the freeway, I would be at about the point that I started in, but here I don't think there's any type of bridge or overpass for a while, so I'm going to be walking a little bit longer, but I have no objections to that. Nice tranquil walk. I have seen more bicyclists using this path. A couple of runners, but more bicyclists than runners, so it's kind of a busy Friday afternoon on a beautiful path like this, but not too busy, still a tranquil place. This is interesting. Somebody has a zip line. Says keep out, so I don't know if I'll find out who. And it connects across the river, and there's a substantial estate. And I don't know if that's for that house or if that's actually like some type of state property for emergency evacuation or transportation in case this river gets flooded or something like that. So I wasn't expecting to see that. I have seen zip lines like that before outside of like homes in the Oregon Coast Range. Wasn't expecting to see it here, so I wonder what the story is. In other news, 3/4 of a mile to exit 296. So presumably that will be where I will find a road that will cross over the freeway. One thing to mention about this trail being busy is this is Friday, a Memorial Day weekend. Now, it's not a holiday, but it is a 3 and for some people 4-day weekend. So pretty brisk and busy out here. Well, we have a Osprey platform. Doesn't have anything on it right now, or just a couple of sticks, so maybe they haven't discovered it yet. And in other news, I'm continuing to walk down this road, and I've been walking for a while, and I think I'm getting close to my destination. Mile 4. Still feels a little bit more than that, but not much more. And ahead, you can see there's an overpass. So this trip might end with a whimper, not a bang, because, you know, some hikes, like there's a great, gorgeous viewpoint or something interesting at the end. Here, I'm just going to be rejoining the road and then walking back south. And we've curved kind of to the north, so I have to walk south. I think it's another mile or so. So, you know, this trail system, you know, there's kind of the fun point of it was I crossed a state line. Okay, that was interesting for me. And there was some good views, but I think this trail system, the point is maybe is that it connects with more beautiful or natural places because it does go all the way to Coeur d'Alene. So along here, I did see some places I liked, you know, restful. You did have that river access. And then it did pass, you know, to get here, I did go through some pretty boring, you know, suburban office park neighborhoods. They didn't consult me about my sense of aesthetics when they built these neighborhoods. So, you know, it is a good place and it's a great natural resource. And like I said, in Spokane, there's just so much of it. The trail today was interesting, but I think the point is that it connects to more interesting things, west and east and north and south. But I had a good, tranquil little Friday walking along, and hope we all learned something about, I don't know, state boundaries and ospreys, that type of stuff. Yep, here we are, leaving the trail, re-entering Liberty Lake, walking along the road. In another day, I'll probably make a video about Liberty Lake in itself, but I already said goodbye, so now I'm saying goodbye again as I walk along this still nice side path to where I can ride a bus back home.